So folks, here is another surprise to you all. TGV, the guiding voice, is full of surprises. And this time we came up with a different surprise wherein we are hosting two co-founders in a single episode. So let us talk to Shyam Siddarth, founder and CEO of TAMILPRENEUR, and Praveen Krishna, who is a co-founder and CMO, TAMILPRENEUR, in today's episode. This is the Guiding Voice podcast, the Guiding Voice for a better future. Folks, I'm your host, Naveen Samala, a fellow IT professional on a mission to shape the careers and lives of millions across the globe. In every episode, we interact with industry experts or thought leaders or academicians or coaches or young entrepreneurs like Shyam and Praveen across the globe to drive some insightful conversations that will help each one of you learn amazing stuff. Folks, we also share an interesting trivia or a fun fact towards the end. And folks, you'll acquire more knowledge by tuning into the Guiding Voice per every minute than any other podcast in this space. Thank you so much for joining me. And today we are going to discuss a topic, how TAMILPRENEUR is helping the startups and supporting the startup ecosystem in India. And we are extremely pleased to have Shyam and Praveen part of the Guiding Voice journey in shaping the careers and lives of millions across the globe. Shyam and Praveen, so nice to have you here. Hearty welcome to the Guiding Voice.
Thank you, Naveen. Glad to be here today.
Thank you. Excited. Looking forward to the wonderful conversation.
Absolutely. And this is a kind of new thing at TGV. As I mentioned in the introduction, we are hosting two founders in a single episode. All right. So it's going to be a very special one for us as well as our audience. And Shyam, maybe I'll start with you. Probably you can share your career journey very briefly and the top three things that have helped you so far in your professional life.
Yeah, sure, Naveen. So I come from a very rural background, pretty much from tier 2 or a tier 3 town from Tamilnadu. So it's called Neyveli. And as I did my schooling, I chose maths, physics, and chemistry as my major for 11th and 12th standard. And then I had a good deal of interest in computer science always. And my dad pretty much had a computer in 1997. So that kept me going. But at the same time, while completing my 12th standard, my parents also kept pressurizing that you should not choose a computer field because there's going to be a lot of pressure in your job and it demands a lot of efforts from your eye and you may spoil your health and so on and so forth. Then while choosing a department in my college, I had to reject all the departments that I cannot choose, and then eventually ended up in mechanical engineering. And 2 years later, I fell in love with mechanical engineering, and I was so adamant that I decided to be getting placed only in a core company. Eventually, I had a waitlisted opportunity in Hyundai Motors Private Limited and TCS to name, but TCS was opportunity in ITES. So I decided to wait for Hyundai Motors, and eventually, which they told that they are not considering the candidates for waitlist. And I felt very dejected at that time. And then I looked back at my profile. I had attended a few internships back then, what we call in Tamil Nadu as in-plant training. So I had went to Salem Steel Plant. I had went to a few more power plants based out of Tamil Nadu. And then I looked up the profile and then started applying to tests or courses related to that. Then I applied for National Power Training Institute, which is under Ministry of Power, and then got into it, completed post-graduation in thermal power plant engineering, then worked for Jindal Steels for 1.5 years, then worked for Mitsubishi Power for 5 years, and eventually ended up being in Bangalore. So in Bangalore, you would definitely know that out of 10 people, 9 are telling that I run a startup and other stuff. So just bugged by the same kind of virus, I also set out to start TAMILPRENEUR. And coming over to the top 3 advices from career, I'd say keeping the calm is the first thing that I learned. And the second one would be to have a good set of processes and track the tasks that you do every day so that you can plan extremely ahead of all the other folks that is there in the office. That will definitely give you an advantage over pretty much your colleagues. So these 3 are my top learnings from my career.
Excellent. One thing that fascinated me is your parents not asking you to become a computer engineer, which is rare. Because right now, if you look at the school children itself, right, that parents say, hey, you have to get into engineering and settle well in next 5 or 10 years, and that's it. So that was a very interesting aspect. And now, Praveen, let's talk about your career journey in brief and top 3 things that have helped you so far.
Sure. So I did my mechanical engineering as well. I did mechanical engineering in National Engineering College, Kovilpatti, a tier 4 city maybe. It's in down south of Tamil Nadu. So I did mechanical engineering as well. And I never wasted my time during my college days. So I wanted to utilize the time to the fullest potential. I like even for the like there used to be like a month break after the event semester and the 2 week 1 to 2 weeks break in between odd semester. That will be the holidays that the college will be providing us. So what I did in my first semester leave is all my friends went to a trip to Ooty. So I went to a nearby thermal power plant in Thoothukudi. So I went there and explored the place. I went there for 5 days, got a certificate, came back to the college and gave it to my HOD. He said like, why didn't you go for a vacation, man? He was like asking me, this is the time to enjoy. That's what he said me. And then like yeah, like it got me started. Like since I guess that was my best decision ever. So since I went to an internship during my first semester's break, I went to an internship on every semester break. I went to Ashok Leyland the next semester, OYO the next semester, and Upcubex, a marketing company in my fourth semester, Royal Enfield. I did a project in Royal Enfield. I was early part of Intern Chala. And then I worked with my alumni startup, Connect Training Solutions. Over there, I was working for around 8 to 9 months over there. And then I joined Zoho. I love Zoho since my second year. I love Siddarth a lot. So I joined Zoho after my UG. So I did around 11 internships during my UG life. Within 4 years, I did 11 internships and ended up being working as marketing guy in Zoho. Over there, I learned a lot. I interacted with Sridhar and those things happened. Meanwhile, I met it, like I listened to podcast. I listened to podcast of TAMILPRENEUR. That's how I met Shyam and pinged him stating like, if you have any plans, let me know. Let's bootstrap and kickstart. And then we connected on multiple calls. I met Shyam on his marriage, and those things happened. We met on multiple Zoom meetings, and then we both quit and started TAMILPRENEUR. And the advice should be like have high empathy. Empathy is one such skill which you cannot see now these days. Empathy is very important as in terms of marketing or as a human being in general. Number two would be networking. Like network as much as possible. Get to know about people, talk to a lot of people, learn. Only when you talk, you'll be able to learn from others. And three is like you don't have to be the best at whatever you do. You can be a jack of all trades. You can know multiple things, and like that can be a part of the journey too. So some may say like I'll be the best in this. You don't have to be best in anything or to succeed in your career or in your life.
11 internship in the span of 4 years, quite amazing. I think nobody would have ever done that. And you might have accumulated about 15 to 20 years of work experience within that thing, right? Because every organization has its own set of culture and different set of leadership, so on and so forth. But you said you worked with Sridhar Vembu at Zoho, right? What was it like?
Yeah, I didn't like work with Siddarth. I was interacting with Siddarth while working in the company. Like
okay.
Yeah.
And how was it interacting with him? What kind of personality is he?
The first thing that I did after joining Zoho was to text him. I joined on August 3rd. I texted a 4 long paras about like me aspiring about him. I wrote this to him and I didn't expect a reply at all. But I got a reply within 2 hours stating, "Hi Praveen." Like he asked me like that was the peak COVID at that time. There was travel restrictions going from one district to another district. I even have the screenshot of that conversation. He told me like to come and meet him after once the restrictions are lifted, but I never got an opportunity. But maybe I'll meet him soon.
Yeah, so many successful people, right? They're quick in responding. That's what I have observed. And others, right? They take their own time to respond. I don't know. No matter how we are busy, still we have to give priority to others, which I really admire in those kind of leaders. So I think you had a great opportunity to work for Zoho, which itself is a great example of being a standing unicorn in India, right? Wonderful. So, Shyam, now let's talk about TAMILPRENEUR. How did it all happen? And is this the first idea that you executed, or before that, did you try something else and finally you ended up with TAMILPRENEUR?
Yeah, actually, I pretty much explored for at least 25 years of my life, I would say, because I laid my hands upon multiple things. I was a basketball player in school and in college. And then I did a short film. I wrote script. I did cinematography for that. And then composed music for a FM channel here in Tamilnadu. And then pretty much I definitely keep myself occupied on all the weekends. And one fine day when I was, I used to listen to a lot of podcasts when I was in Bangalore, as I was pretty much a solo guy there. And long story short, I was in a startup event, which made me realize that there are not enough folks from Tamil Nadu there at all in the event. And that kept me questioning, because a lot of business people are here, but still no startup founders. What about the sons and daughters of these people who are, there? And then I stumbled upon an ASCOM state startup report, which, pretty much ranked Tamil Nadu at the bottom of the report. Tamil Nadu was 23 out of 25 in that report. And then I understood that I did not meet entrepreneurs in that event because Tamil Nadu did not have a startup ecosystem. So this was in 2019. And as I finished the event and then got back home, I took a juice break. And then one of the sugarcane juice sellers there impressed me with his unique business skills. He was making 80,000 rupees a month. And then one conversation or the other led to him explaining his business model, which got me really curious. And then me wondering if only these people from, he was from tier 2 place from Tamil Nadu, Tiruvannamalai. So if only these people have enough awareness, motivation, and capital, they would also venture out and start up. And then eventually we can also start seeing Tamil Nadu in the top ranking in the startup ranking list. And eventually that will also create a lot of job opportunities. So that's when I set out on and then started entrepreneurship for people in Tamil Nadu, and then Tamil and entrepreneurship being blended to form TAMILPRENEUR. That was how I coined the term. And it started as an Instagram page where we circulated startup and tech related news initially, and later moved on to podcast, of course, just like how what you guys are doing. But we wanted to focus on tier 2 and tier 3 people and bringing up them in their life in terms of startup journey. So we did it in Tamil completely. And so at one point of time, there was a guy who was working in Foundry who messaged stating that I listened to your podcast and then I quit my job. I was like, no, I think you probably did a mistake, man. Why did you quit your job? To which he's like, no, I had a second-hand TVS Excel with me, and then I took it to a mechanic shop, got it repainted completely, and now I sell shawarma on top of it. I used to make 8,000 to 10,000 a month. Now I'm making 35,000 to 45,000 a month. So thanks to your podcast, man. And that was the aha moment which we had that led to, formalizing business model and others.
Absolutely great. Stunning story, in fact. So you said you listen to a lot of podcasts. What is your favorite podcast?
So it's Entrepreneurs on Fire from John Lee Dumas. And and there's one more podcast called Mixergy. So I pretty much had skipped a lot of podcasts because I used to get notifications in 2013 and 2014 from Mixergy. Andrew Warner is one of the best guys, and I realized it very late. 3 years later, I accidentally opened an email and then clicked and listened to that podcast. It was an interview of John Lee Dumas interviewing Andrew Warner. So, and then I stumbled upon Entrepreneurs on Fire. And then eventually, all the podcasts that I heard happened to be entrepreneurship podcasts. So these two were my favorite.
Great. Great. And then one common thing that I see between The Guiding Voice and Tamilpreneur, of course, we also come from tier 2, tier 3 backgrounds, and in fact wanted to lift those people because if you consider people in metro cities and all, right, they're good at comm skills and they know their way. They are already like at least 1 to 2 generations ahead. Whereas people from tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 or beyond, right, they have excellent technical skills and all, but they lack the communication and clarity. So we are also trying our level best in terms of seeking curated guidance from experts and young entrepreneurs like you guys, right? So that's the whole purpose. Excellent. And I'm truly impressed by the story, right? All right. So Praveen, now let's talk about this role of a CMO, Chief Marketing Officer, right? So it seems to be a fancy title and all. And how does a typical day in your life look like?
Yeah, basically working out with content team and designing team mostly, and then running campaigns. We don't do paid campaigns a lot. So paid advertisement and paid marketing mostly, like at least maybe we'll do once a month or twice a month. That's it. So basically, we are a content company from the heart. Tamilpreneur is a content company. We started posting entrepreneurs, and then we started posting post about entrepreneurs. Like people aren't aware about entrepreneurs from their hometown. Let's say I'm in Thoothukudi, and I recently got to know a person named Saurabh Sharma, who is also from Thoothukudi. He's making around 3 million annual recurring revenue. I didn't know that a person from Thoothukudi is doing a D2C brand where he's making 3 million ARR. So we started like Tamil Entrepreneur. Like we started something called Tamil Entrepreneur where we post about entrepreneurs and they need to what do they do and everything. Yeah, basically content and letting the word about the product. So recently we launched Entrepreneur Club on December 18th. Post that we have been marketing about the club a lot, but still like we post entrepreneurs like for the last 2.5 years we have posted more than maybe 6,000, 5,000 newsletter to startups. The team has did that. Like we have been posting consistently every day. We post around 4 to 5 news every single day. Now the funding has slowed down so that the news is also slowed down. But we are trying to do our best. So basically, in my day, I'll work with content team and marketing team, and I also take care of tech from tech part of Tamilpreneur. Like we all share our work. I take care of finance, marketing. So in a startup, you will not have some confined roles stating you should take care of marketing, you'll take care of execution, etc. We all do everything. Like yeah, that's how a day in startup works.
So how is your financial figures looking like? Have you guys already started generating some revenue, if I may ask?
Yeah, we are profitable. So for last 2 years, we were spending money on creating content, and this year we became profitable on Jan of this year, 2022 Jan we became profitable.
Excellent, quite inspiring again. So Shyam, again I'll come back to you. And as I was talking before the interview, entrepreneurship looks rosy for people. Okay, and if you look from outside, they say, okay, I'm the CEO, I'm the founder, right? And I bootstrapped, and then I've approached VCs, I got funding, a lot of media coverage and all. But behind the scenes, story is completely different, right? We come across a lot of hardships, and we face a lot of tough challenges, and which we may not have anticipated, okay, before taking that plunge and all. Likewise, in your case, what were some of the tough challenges that you have come across, which you haven't anticipated, and probably you may be cherishing now? Okay, I learned this as a biggest mistake or whatever it is, right? So what are certain lessons which you like to share with our audience?
Yeah, sure. I mean, like you told, the entrepreneurship is a rosy journey, but I think the rosy journey means that when an entrepreneur is having an exit, especially, and the path to rose would always have thorns, definitely. And for every entrepreneur, the journey is full of thorns, definitely. And in the course of action, some of the lessons that I felt is probably if you're having some first mover advantage in the market, you need to definitely scale it really quickly. And the more and more you start visualizing, offering more features to your users, the more and more it is going to get delayed. And literally, we felt that one of our minimum viable product is going to take 60 to 90 days. And we all moved to a single place and eventually ended up launching it in 10 to 15 days itself. So I think that was one of the biggest lessons. So it takes as much time as you decide it should take. That is the primary lesson, Naveen, I would say that.
All right. And going back to you, Praveen, I was going through the kind of events that you guys host as part of this Tamilpreneur, and I came across something called SANGAMAM. So can you share with our audience what this SANGAMAM event is all about, and what is the frequency and how people are getting benefited out of it?
Sure. So SANGAMAM is a Tamil word which means confluence. A confluence of entrepreneurs, investors, startup enthusiasts, veterans, industry experts, etc. So what we do is like Tamilpreneur was fully virtual since 2019. Since the day we started, we were fully virtual. Even Shyam and I was in Thuthukudi, Shyam was in Neyveli, Shyam was in Bangalore. We were connected on Zoom meetings and worked on stuff. So the only thing that the followers or the people or the friends who have been asking for is an offline event where they can meet us and talk about stuff, build a product or something like that. So we've been planning to conduct some offline events like that for a long time. And one fine day we went to a startup in Chennai, named the Century FinTech. We went there and met the co-founder of the startup named Prabhu. So we met him and we were discussing the plans that we are having in Tamilnadu. And he told like, why couldn't you what's stopping you to conduct Sangam? We were like, look, there's a lot of stuff. We are looking for places. We want money to conduct the event. We weren't making we weren't making much revenue at that time. So he told us like to utilize their office space. Like they were in a two apartment at that time, and they were kind enough to ask us to utilize their office space. So what we did was we announced in our social stating that we are conducting a 50-seater startup networking event, startup focused networking event, where you can come and we price the tickets as we don't want any people to come there. So we price the ticket as 99 and 199. 100 rupees and 200 rupees. So we did that. We posted on our channel. What I was planning was, like, we'll announce it on our socials today. Let's wait for 3 more days. And if the tickets is not sold, let's do a paid campaign. To our surprise, like, we announced our socials at around 9 p.m. the night. Next day morning when I woke up, all tickets are sold out. All the tickets are sold out. Like, we were surprised actually. So at that point we thought, okay, offline is working out very well, and we reached the product market fit very early. So this was our pilot event in M2P, and then we moved to IIT Madras Research Park. We did our second edition in IIT Madras. Like, we rented a place, so we rented an auditorium over there. We did our second edition. We limited to 100 seats. We don't want clutter to be there, so we limited to 100 seats. And we're doing a third edition on June 4th, in maybe in 3 days. So where people will come, like, many have found investors, many have found co-founders in the event. People will just come casually and take money from investors. People have raised more than 200, 300K during the event by just meeting the people over there. People, like angel investors will come, GPs from VC firms will come, entrepreneurs, aspiring entrepreneurs will come. So yeah, as the name says, it's a confluence of the Sangamam of all the stakeholders of a startup ecosystem in Tamil Nadu. So the
Excellent.
frequency is monthly. Sorry, the frequency is monthly. We do conduct one Sangamam per month, and yeah.
And is it a day-long event kind of thing, or?
So far, we are doing 3 hour event, and we are also planning to insert some fireside chats, a talk session, or something like that. For now, it's 1 hour full of, we'll be like discussing stuff. Like, people will be doing elevator pitches and stuff, and then we'll let them network for 2 hours. That's how we are planning for right now. We do have plans to conduct a 1 day or a 2 day event where we'll have to like have some fireside chat, multiple things going on. I think we can expect something like that soon. Very soon.
Yeah. That's great. That's great. All right. So Shyam, again, coming back to you, you guys interact with a lot of founders, right? And what is one common problem that you have noticed among the startup founders?
Startup founders, maybe I'd like to categorize as early stage founders, and then late stage founders, I'd say. So for late stage founders, I think it is not a problem. It is their unavailability which is making the journey of all these early stage entrepreneurs a little tough. So far, the entrepreneurs which we have interacted have been little kind to us and then offer their time or mentorship to us on a regular basis. But not all entrepreneurs are, getting a way to approach all these entrepreneurs. Then this itself is still existing. Then we decided to make a place where these budding entrepreneurs can directly meet the seasoned entrepreneurs and get some word of advice. So we formed something called TAMILPRENEUR Club, and then we are currently at 1,000 members. And entrepreneurs are happy because they're doing something for the society, and early stage entrepreneurs, budding entrepreneurs are happy because they're interacting with the entrepreneurs here. So one problem for early stage entrepreneurs was lack of mentorship and lack of funding, which we solved through connecting them with the entrepreneurs. One problem for entrepreneurs was availability of time, which we solved by bringing them all together at the same platform. So at one point of time, a single entrepreneur can, involve or advise multiple people. That's how we did it.
Quite interesting. Yeah, I think you're solving both the problems. Wonderful. Coming back to Praveen, you again interact with a lot of startup founders, and probably they must be discussing about marketing strategies and tactics and all. So what are some of the tactics that are working well among the startups, and maybe any unique stories which you would like to share?
Yeah, cool. Like, marketing is purely subjective. It depends, like, from time to time, from startup to startup, from consumer market to consumer market. Recently, the credit is doing pretty much well. Credit is like intriguing. Like, credit's customer base, credit's target audience is people who are in the top 1% of the society who has higher purchasing power. That's their target audience. So those people would be in the age of late 30s, maybe late 30s or early 40s. So credit is pretty much doing a great ad, intriguing their memories, which they would have seen in their childhood life. So they're bringing back those things. They're doing wonderful stuff. And yesterday I got, like, I don't watch IPL, so I got to know about this campaign that Dunzo did yesterday. Dunzo, like, just booked a 32-second ad slot in the final IPL match, and they didn't even have their logo in the ad. They just plainly add a QR code stating inconvenience regretted, convenience is not. That's it. And it made people to scan the QR code, and around, like, the Even people from Gunzo told that that's the highest traffic that they've got since they started. And even the website is down for some time. So it depends. It's a moment play. It's a marketing play. Marketing is not something which you use to sell the product. Marketing is something that you use to let your potential customers aware about the product or service that you do. Like marketing is not about selling at all. Marketing is just letting them know that there's a product like there's a product like this to the right potential set of audience, not to all. Credit isn't doing ads for everyone. Credit is like particularly doing the ads for the people who are their potential customers. So yeah, there is no generic tactics that which can be applied to all the startups. It's very subjective end of the day.
Mhm. Yeah, makes sense. I love both the examples here. All right. So, Shyam, coming back to you, what else should we do to further strengthen the Indian startup ecosystem?
Maybe I might be a little racial here, but I felt that Bangalore is doing a lot, and then a lot of entrepreneurs who want to establish their startup eventually move to Bangalore, and there are individualistic states which need to fare a little bit more. And I felt that people from tier 1 or tier 2 cities, especially on tier 1, most of people who aspire to become entrepreneur have already set their foot on and then have got at least a few things figured out. But people from tier 2 or tier 3 are still struggling to get there, So some form of regional content would definitely help help or ignite the people in tier 2 and tier 3 cities to get started on their entrepreneurship journey. And a guy from Chennai or a guy from Bangalore would typically Google anything and then get it done in minutes. He understands jargons, he understands how the VC ecosystem functions, he understands how the startup ecosystem functions, everything. But for someone from tier 2 or tier 3, I think you need to spoon feed a little bit of things. I think it has got to considerable amount of effort should go from your side as well. But I think at the end of the day, we are all going to reap the benefits. So I'd suggest rather than looking at an Indian startup ecosystem standpoint, maybe we can start looking at states startup ecosystem standpoint, and then lift up all the states eventually together. Thereby, people like Tamilpreneur on each and different states, trying to bring up their ecosystem would definitely add up to a lot of value to the Indian entrepreneurship ecosystem relatively.
Yeah,
that is my say.
Yeah, I hear you. I think there is a common problem, probably leveraging these regional preneurs, if I may call it, right? That will, and encouraging them would definitely add a lot of value and boost these people to come up with some fantastic ideas and implement them. All right, so wonderful. So this has been a quite intriguing conversation, and I'm super charged by speaking to both of you. But I would like to lighten up the mood of our audience by kicking off a quick rapid fire round. I'm going to alternate again, this time between Praveen and Shyam. Earlier it was Shyam and Praveen. Now probably I'll fire the first question to Praveen, and you guys can answer very crisply, okay, in one word or probably one phrase maximum. And these are all just to know the other side of you guys. That's it, okay? I'm not going to put you on spot for sure. If you're ready, let's get started.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So Praveen, here comes my first bullet to you. What is one naughtiest thing, okay, that you'd like to share with our audience from your childhood days, or any funny incident, anything that stayed in your mind and probably which your parents or maybe your friends might be making fun of you?
Yeah, I like the math teacher in 6th standard.
Right. Yeah. Moving on. Shyam, what is one best piece of advice that you have received so far?
Best piece of advice. Yeah, I think the advice is not from any external, but from myself. In fact, I have realized that sleep is in fact the best medicine that one will get. Eventually, when you go to bed and then wake up, at least 50% of the problems seem idle. And then when you wake up the next day, eventually 10 more % goes off. And eventually when you wake up for a year and a half and 5 years, eventually the problem is actually gone. And when you look back sitting here and then 5 years ago, something which was a problem for you is now doesn't matter at all to you. And then you feel bad for wasting time there. So I think that would definitely the best advice. Sleep and all your problems would be gone.
No, absolutely. Because many times once somebody gets into this entrepreneurship and all, they feel like I have to work 24/7. That But honestly speaking, you don't have to work 24/7 at the helm of ruining our health, right? So I think that's a great advice. In fact, I also advise everybody to have minimum 6 to 8 hours of sleep, because that is how we are designed by God, right? So that we rejuvenate ourselves and start afresh the next day and all. Wonderful. So Praveen, coming back to you, at what time of day are you most productive?
Early morning, maybe. I am a morning person. I wake up around 6 a.m. in the morning. So the number of tasks that I do in the morning, if I'm equating that, I'll be doing around 10 tasks in the morning and maybe 5 or 6 in the evening.
Okay.
Morning is the best time for me.
Yeah, fair enough. Shyam, over to you. What would be the animal you would be reborn as?
I've not thought this so far. Probably a dragon.
Unicorn.
Interesting. All right.
I'd be born as a unicorn, maybe.
Unicorn.
That is the apt answer here, I guess. Dragon was way more off the system.
No, he's a CMO, right? He's a CMO and he has that natural ability, tendencies and ability. Absolutely. So Praveen, who is your favorite hero?
Hero as
in general, like, or you can pick up somebody from film industry. Who is your hero in general?
Yeah, I love Nawal Ravikant a lot. Kunal Shah. Siddarth, of course. I like these people a lot, actually. I read about them a lot.
Okay, great. Yeah, that's nice. All right. So, Shyam, where did you go on your last vacation?
Last vacation, it was quite sad that I haven't yet gone on my honeymoon. It's been 2 years still.
Come on, dude.
Yeah, life of an entrepreneur, right?
Still, you have to plan.
So the trips have not been a vacation of sorts, but just one or 2 day trips of sort. Last time, I think I went to Pondicherry here, close to Chennai. Yeah. That's it.
I get it. All right. Okay. And here comes an interesting one, Praveen. What is your favorite word in another language?
Let's say pyar.
I think he's trying to address the Hindi audience who are listening to this show here. Probably we bored them enough by quoting a lot of Tamil and related examples. Yeah. Now that we give pyar and then we expect them to give pyar as well by listening to the episode completely.
Awesome. Great, yeah. Very nice. All right. So last one for the rapid fire. And Shyam, it goes to you. What is one electronic gadget that you would like to see or invent yourself?
Yeah, there is this gadget where something can be converted into actions when you think of it. So probably a small band that I need to wear so that it connects it recognizes all my activities in the neurons and then it reflects on a computer or something of that sort. I felt that mostly computer is a little bit slow for the kind of thinking process that I am going through, and then would seem faster if probably I have such kind of device. I definitely go on and invent that.
So basically, Shyam is talking about Chakalaka Boom Boom pencil.
All right, yeah. I wish you get a chance to see the device in action. All right, fantastic. So that was a fabulous rapid fire round, and with that, let me flip back to the mainstream. And before I let you go, both of you should answer this question. And it's up to you who wants to go first. But what will be your one piece of advice to those aspiring to make big in their careers or lives?
Yeah, Praveen, go on.
Have highest empathy that you can. That's one thing that you'll never regret of. Like, you can understand your customers, your co-founders, your investors, your parents, any human being or any animal in that case. You can understand about them in the highest form. Have high empathy. That's it.
Great. Thank you for that note. Shyam.
Yes. Probably eventually anybody who is listening to this would eventually come down to a point where they can actually start a startup or choose a job and then continue with that. And probably some of you are in similar state where you had to choose between your job or pursuing your startup. So I'd ask you to gently think about the 2008 IPL season, how it has been, and look at the sponsors who have been there in 2008 IPL season and compare it with the 2022 IPL season. With that comparison, just by making that small comparison, you would be able to understand where the world is moving towards. And don't have to, quit your job and then mess yourself up, but can slowly start by creating content and the bottom line is to tell them to create content instead of consuming content. To just take an example, I literally watched 2 or 3 movies in 2.5 years from 2018 to 2020. So I think instead I spent time creating content on Instagram for Tamilpreneur. I think that made a lot of changes in your lifestyle and eventually helped me become an entrepreneur. So create content more and take your first step. Observe the trends. That would be all.
Great. That's a wonderful advice from both of you. Thank you so much, guys. Thanks for being part of the Guiding Voice journey in shaping the careers and lives of millions across the globe. All the best to Tamilpreneur and all the best to all the startups that you guys are supporting. I think you guys are doing a wonderful job in terms of supporting people from tier 2, 3, 4 places and all. So I wish you all the very best on behalf of the entire Guiding Voice team.
Thank you, Naveen. It was really an interesting interview, and the questions were really thoughtful. In fact, it will not only serve as a guiding voice to all the listeners, but also as a guiding voice to us, because not often we are asked these questions, and then getting these questions asked will make us revisit and then think about, we are yet to think on these lines yet. And then that has been really interesting, and a lot of thought processes are going on already. And I hope the guiding voice reaches a lot of listeners, and then eventually they also start up. And once they ask what was your inspiration to start up, they all quote, guiding voice was my inspiration. All our wishes for you to get there, Naveen.
Exactly. Thank you. It was wonderful. It was a wonderful 45-minute talk, conversation. It was just talking to a friend, and then the rapid fire was wonderful. Thank you for hosting us. Thank you so much.
All right. Yeah, pleasure, guys. And thank you for all the kind words, and thanks for being part of our journey. And again, I know I've bothered you both, but it's worth spending time. And thank you again for being part of the journey.
Thank you, Naveen. I think as I told about the problems of an entrepreneur, not being able to spend time for the budding entrepreneurs is really still a problem. And I think we are completely indebted to you for doing this.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
All right. So pleasure talking to you both. All right. So folks, before we move into the trivia section, here is a small request to you. In case if you haven't subscribed to us, please subscribe from the app where you have tuned in from, so that you'll be notified about future episodes. Also, if you have loved this conversation just like I did and found it useful, please share with at least 3 of your friends or colleagues who can benefit from the Guiding Voice, so that your friends also will learn new stuff like you, and we will gain a set of new subscribers. Thank you so much in advance. Now, let's cruise into the trivia segment of today's episode. Inspired by Tamilpreneur community, which is supporting the fellow startup founders and all, I would like to talk about another powerful medium, which is Shark Tank. Let us take a dig at the history of Shark Tank in today's trivia. The first version of Shark Tank was aired in Japan way back in 2001, but it was not called as Shark Tank, but it was referred as Money Tigers. And then the show was picked up in the UK, and it was called as Dragon's Den. In 2006, Canada made their own version under the same name. And it was not until 2009 that Shark Tank was premiered in the US by the name Shark Tank. That's all for today. And before I let you all go, in case if you have heard about any inspiring stories of technocrats or young entrepreneurs, please refer them to me. You can interact me through any social media platform, or drop a note on the Guiding Voice for you @gmail.com. Thank you so much for joining me. Folks, I'm your host, Naveen Samala, a fellow IT professional and a passionate learner on a mission to make a difference in the careers and lives of millions across the globe. Until next time, bye-bye. See you all in the next episode with another wonderful guest.